We're putting this together. I know we were trying to email out all of the reports for the meeting, and Shamasi Yolanda just sent one out this morning that has a link to a Google Drive document. So if you have your phones with you, check your email and click on the link, and you can follow along with the reports.
Blessed is our God, always, now, and ever, and unto the ages of ages. Our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, both now and ever, and unto the ages of ages. Lord Jesus Christ, we offer ourselves this morning to you and this wonderful church and the wonderful ministry that you have given to each of us. May we bless you as you bless us. May we return this wonderful gift to you. May we have wisdom in our meeting. Lord, direct our hearts. We do not desire our own wills, only yours. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
You would begin with your report. You were the first one to
So I'm very tempted to do what I'm going to tell everybody not to do, and that is don't read your report, and I'm not going to read mine either, because they will all be available to you so you can read them all online. I'll just kind of do a flyover on mine, and that is to say my thoughts, all of our thoughts, I think, at this time were drawn together right over there. I kept seeing that little cross in the cemetery. I kept thinking about our brother, our dearly departed brother, Chuck Arnold. And so that was the reference point for what I had to say. I guess I would call this more of a meditation than a pastoral report. There wasn't a lot of facts and figures and glowing things. But I thought about Chuck as I thought about this meeting. I thought about this man who was one of the founding fathers. He was here really in the very beginning with the Suela family. He was here before I got here for sure. And I think of him and I think of his love for this church, even when he was too ill to be able to really contribute very much. All it would take would be a question to him about the lights or all of the things that he knew so much about, and he would just come alive. He would be here right now with us if he could, but he can't. So what a strange way to start a pastoral report. And yet, on the other hand, I think it's a perfect way to start a pastoral report, because that grave in that cemetery means something to us, to me, to all of us. I think Chuck has already pointed a new way for us in his homegoing. He's reminding us that it doesn't just stop here. All of the busyness, all of the countless activities, all of the things that God has graced us with. As I was thinking about Chuck's funeral, I was thinking, my Lord, here we're doing this and still we haven't finished cleaning up from all of the wonderful holy debris from all of those baptisms, 15 baptisms. And we're going to be starting up a new catechism class very soon, because we'll just begin it and have more and more. What a wonderful thing to have that. And I won't call it bittersweet, because it's not. It's bright sadness. The sadness of losing Chuck, and at the same time, new life and new movement and new growth in our parish. And I think, again, more of a meditation than a pastoral report, but I think that was the image that God gave to me, and I now try to impart it to you as we head off again into this new year. What a wonderful opportunity. What a great opportunity God has given to us at a time when other churches are shrinking, other churches are becoming heretical and teaching things that are absolutely unhistorical and ungodly and unorthodox, many. And here we have been given the fullness of this church. Sometimes I ask myself, why is it that we have been so blessed? I really honestly do. Why have we been so blessed? When we had the fall gathering here back in October, I watched the faces of people who were visiting. I listened to Marina when she said she wanted to do the music, have the music conference here, or at least some practicing here, because she so loved this church. She's been here a number of times, and we are blessed. And the reason she's here is because she really loves our church and our choir and our parish. She loves what we're doing here. The people that came to the fall gathering, same thing. I'm not saying we're the best in the business and the shining star on the Christmas tree, but I'm saying that God has blessed us and we are able to bless others. So at the end of that fall gathering, I heard people saying things like, "This was so joyful. I feel so renewed and refreshed. I can't wait to get back to church, to my home, and get going again. I feel like a new man." I even had someone, and I think the answer to this would be, I don't necessarily think so, but thanks for the sentiment. Somebody even said, "I just wish we would do this at St. James every year." So I like the idea. I'm not sure we'd quite be ready for every year, but as often as possible, we're here. God has put us here, and I am so very, very grateful. And lastly, you'll be hearing the reports, and I don't need to go into details. In fact, I'm not even going to name names. I think it's better just to leave it open, because there are so many willing hearts and so many willing hands who have worked in so many different ways, the variety of things that have been done here. So something we're all watching So just look around and you'll see signs of all this hard work. The thing that we're all watching as we do this is the growing pains. Ask anybody that's done anything at this church, and everyone will tell you, yeah, it's a lot of work. We go out and we have a wonderful meal. We walk away, come back, it's clean, it's perfect, everything's great. That comes at a price. The choir, being able to do weddings, we've got some wonderful weddings coming up this year. Funerals, all the great feasts, that comes at a price. You don't just stand up, and our thanks to the choir today, because Rita is gone and Ryan stepped up to the plate, and our choir stepped up very nicely to fill in the void, the gap. Our choir works very hard to make this all happen. It doesn't stop. There's constant practices. The Metropolitan will be here next month. Rita's already organizing choir practices to be ready for that. Everything, every piece of this takes an increasing amount of work. And sometimes I feel like watching one of those World War II movies where the submarine, has to go down a little bit too deep. And you hear the creaks and the groans. We're hearing a few creaks and groans. Ask the parish council, ask anyone. And they will all say, yeah, it's more complicated, it's more work. It takes a lot more time to think it all through. But I believe I'm not the only one, I know I'm not the only one, who would say at the end of that sentence, and thank God for it. Thank God for it. We didn't come just to stay where we were and to maintain our little group and make sure we didn't get any bigger. We came to do exactly what's happening. So, again, I was in where I began, and that is thinking about Chuck. No, it didn't end there. It hasn't ended there. His vision for this church continues on. He's still praying. He's praying for us more clearly than ever before. He's praying for this church that he loved, that he thought about, had such vision for. And on a somber note, but a final note, we know that even though his grave looks a little solitary out there right now, just one grave and a whole big field, over the years, it won't be solitary. There will be more crosses and more graves there. Our graves, our crosses, as we complete the course of our life as Chuck did. And what a wonderful thing to know as we approach that time, that this work that we are doing now, this toil, this extra effort, will be here, not only in our lifetimes, but for God only knows how much longer until the Lord returns himself. So share with me the joy, yes, somber joy, but great joy, and all of the things that God has poured out for us. King Solomon said it the best, and I will close with it. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven.
As we continue with these reports, one of the things that I want to just remind everyone, if you're giving a report, there's no reason to read the whole thing. That's already being sent to everyone. So please just share the quick notes, if you will. As Father did, he did read this whole thing. So please don't read the whole thing unless it's absolutely vital.
I can read it now if you'd like.
Good. Well, those will be sent out, so don't feel the need to go over every little piece. Just please give highlights. And with that, I want all of us to kind of be thinking as we hear these reports, if any of these things spark our interest. Later we're going to have a form that will go out, and you can check the box if you're interested in ministering to the church now. So please be listening to these reports in mind with how is it that perhaps you could be For any of you who didn't hear, children can go that way, though it looks like all the children heard, so I think we're good. The next few are actually just reports. Those have been sent to you, and they'll be sent again via link. That would be for St. Thecla's Women's Group, for the Housekeeping Standing Committee, the Religious Standing Committee, and then for the Hospitality Ministry. Darlene and Roberta, do you have anything you wanted to?
I wanted to say one thing.
Yes.
Anna Unithan has been the president of St. Thecla for a number of years, and she's out of town. I'm taking over as president starting next month, so she asked me to do the report.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So there's a number of different things that happen under the St. Thecla Women's Group umbrella. There's a number of different committees, like the Hospitality Committee, and you'll be hearing from some of them. They kind of function under the overall umbrella. Next Sunday, we're going to be setting up tables with some more information to encourage everybody to get involved in some of those committees to help with some of the work. During 2023, we helped organize a retreat, a spiritual retreat with Father John Takahashi, and we'll be planning to do probably a fall retreat this coming year. We've helped raise money to support earthquake victims in Syria and Lebanon. We help with a back-to-school backpack program for Focus. We sent packages to all of our college members that are here and there at various colleges across the country. We've done a bake sale to help support the Sunday school. There's a lot of different things that we do. I won't list them all. We're hoping to, instead of, right now, we're having meetings once a month on Tuesday evenings, and it's just sort of a business meeting. What we're hoping to do is to grow and to have some more social activities and spiritual activities probably once a month. So you'll be hearing about those as they happen. We're planning on raising money to support an orphanage in India, to help with scholarships to Project Mexico this summer, to help with the development of Mother Catherine's monastery, women's monastery that's being built up in Sonora. And we're going to be doing some of the remodeling on the kitchen that we've been raising funds for a number of years. So lots of things going on, and we're looking for some help.
Thank you, Kriya. Did you have anything you wanted to share? You don't have to if you don't want to. The mic is yours.
I did not expect to speak, so I'm very happy to speak off the cuff. Hospitality committee in charge of having the meals and doing the cleanup, and we've had some lovely announcements recently about we need more help for cleanup, and you have done that, and we really appreciate that, because some people are here until 3 o'clock cleaning up, and it's not fun every week. So hospitality is wonderful, and it helps us bring people in, and we don't mind if you're sitting there, but if we've gone, you need to take care of that spot. And we are, as Korea said, changing the plans a bit about the kitchen. We want to get started. We really need to get moving on this. It's been in the plans for a long time. This is it. We're going to do something, because we really can't live with this kitchen much longer, or any longer, really. Okay, so forward and upward in 2024.
Thank you, Roberta. Yeah. Oh, for the choir. Yes. We're going to jump backwards to B for a moment for the choir. Thank you, Lawrence.
So Rita is our choir director, and she was very sorry that she couldn't be here this morning, so she asked me just to cover some of the highlights for the choir report for 2023, as well as the goals for this year coming up. So please see the report for all of the details, but many thanks to everyone who's sung in the choir, who's helped out the choir and supported the choirs. As Father mentioned, we had the fall gathering with Marina, and that was a great blessing to have it here. We're also welcoming new members. We have Christian and Luke and Lorelai have just joined the choir, and they're so welcome, and it's so wonderful to have them singing with us. Also, if you're interested in the choir or you're just getting started, there is a winter SMI. It's the Music Institute that's hosted by the Archdiocese. This year it is in Miami, Florida. It's coming up at the end of February. So go to the Archdiocese website, the Sacred Music Institute section, to find out the details if you're interested in going. There's a couple other goals for 2024 coming up. The main thing is that we're resuming choir practice in February as we get ready and warm up for Pascha. And also, just so you know, we are working on a choir stand for the choir. So not only for the singing, we'll have a chanter stand. We're still working on the layout, but it'll help focus the voices for the chanters. So.
Lawrence. And then Father Deacon David, if you would share on the St. Theophan's men group. Oh, there you are.
Hello, St. James. So the men's group has been going through St. Theophan's book about the spiritual life. And I won't do the recap now because it does take a minute because we're about halfway through. We have gone through one letter a meeting. So we've projected, we have about a 3-year window, and we're about a year and maybe 3 months in. So there's plenty of time to come and just learn about the faith, learn about the spiritual life. When there are people who have come that have never been before, we do a recap, and we just kind of go through, fast forward through the book to the point we're at. Usually ends up taking one whole meeting, but it's okay. We try to catch everybody up to speed. Even if you don't want to come to the meeting, I would recommend reading it, and I would recommend it for everybody. But that's kind of what we're doing right now. We also are looking forward, as always, to the barbecues that we host and the chili cook-off and those types of things. It's mostly about fun, about connecting with each other, about realizing that we are struggling in the same world as our brothers here in the church, and hopefully we can encourage each other. So that's kind of the point of the meetings. So hope to see some new faces, and it's okay if you guys are busy. I understand. I myself am busy. We can't have it on, like multiple days or something like that because there is so much going on. So we understand that. Thank you.
Then we have the iconostasis and interior design. Elena or Terry, do either of you have
Elena.
a report? Wonderful.
Hello, everyone. I have two great news. I have this shortest report out of everybody. And the second great news is that we are actually so blessed. And we have these people who help and make this design project still happens. So after this, about 2-3 years of very intense and exciting projects we have since 2020. 2023 was quite a pretty quiet year for us. So we have a few projects done in Orthodox, and we have probably in a couple weeks, Dimitri will be installing some iconography in altar. That's pretty much it. So if you have any questions or, and also I want to take an opportunity and actually thank those who help and those who actually make this happen for the design committee and step in and help, especially me, with some family circumstances, and I really appreciate Thank you so much.
So I have a question. How many of you started in St. James after 1999? Raise your hands. That's why I wrote my report. Okay. You've got a long report. I'm not going to go through it, but most of you don't realize that what you would have seen here was an iconostasis low, not the upper, a blank wall, flat, in the very back. That was what was here, January 1st, 2020. Everything you see around you has been done since then. And there's a lot of things you don't see. So I'll do it real quick. Last year, we took over the fellowship hall. How many of you have been in the book nook? All the hands should go up, right? Okay. How many of you know there's an identical room to that on the far end that is used by the youth, where we tore out a wall, repainted that room, and recarpeted that room and put new lights in? How many of you know that the homeschool rooms were repainted? The kitchenette, which looked to be from about the 1960s, was pulled out, redone, recarpeted, repainted, and relighted. Both those rooms on the left as you go down, the last one and the one there. The hallways completely repainted, relighted, and I believe about 30 years worth of scuffs and dirt were taken off the floors and in the fellowship hall. Things that we don't notice, but again, it's what makes our life around here enjoyable. So as you walk around, enjoy the fruits of the labors that were there. And I should add on this, because we're going to be talking about things financial. To date, those projects have spent over $300,000. None of that was a part of the budget. None. It was all gifts given to make things happen. And we've been blessed to have Elena's father as the iconographer, to have one of the best iconographers in the United States, Dmitry Shkolnik, doing the iconography in the altar. Again, all blessings that were part of this. Cemetery, obviously a milestone year. And there's a lot of history. I wrote a little bit so that, again, if you weren't a part of this parish, you didn't know that when we got the land next door that was generously donated to us, there was a vision of a possible cemetery over a decade ago. We started working on that. It was a 3-year project just to get city approval, to do all the things you have to do, to raise the money to do those things, etc. And by the grace of God, we got approval in the middle of last year, something that other churches have not been able to do in their areas due to their local bureaucrats. So it's a blessing for us. The steps we are, the fencing has been ordered, should be installed depending on weather within the next 2 months, I would say. It will be low maintenance, aluminum cast, and powder coated fencing that should last 100 years or more. That will then go around the entire perimeter of this cemetery. We've also Italian cypress that will be on the northern and the western perimeters of the property. We have bids out for remaining part of the work. At this point, it's about the continued support and interest of those who would like to get a plot in the cemetery. I have this available. It's a plot reservation form. If you are interested, you can do it a lump sum or you can do it over a period of time. That's fine. What I will tell you, and if you look on the last page of that report, or the next to last page, the plots still are $5,000. That includes what is called opening and closing at the time of the funeral, whether that's next year or 10 years from now, it doesn't matter. That cost will not be included additional, and it includes any future endowment care. So it is, relatively speaking, a bargain at this point if you make a commitment. And that can be ongoing, and that might change as we go into the future. The last page I put in because a lot of people are not aware, and most families aren't until you have a funeral, what's it cost? And so I just gave you a comparison. Our cemetery, we have arranged to have a mortuary help us who understands our faith and what we need at a very discounted price. A casket can be purchased anywhere. This happens to be the price of getting a casket from Holy Assumption Monastery in Calistoga. So that total cost was $8,200, and that included that $5,000. I went to Lakewood this week. The least cost you could get from Lakewood for a similar service is $15,000. Their package is $18,000. And oh, by the way, I was told those prices will go up in February, less than a week away. So as you're thinking, it's not something that we all think about, finding a funeral or burial plot, but as you're thinking, how can you help St. James continue to achieve that vision and build that cemetery out? I'd ask you to give consideration to that. And contact me, and we'll get it going as well. I should add one final thing. At the last parish council meeting, a set of rules were adopted for the cemetery. Those that have made purchases will be sending those out to you. Those that are interested can take a look at that. Right now, St. James is exclusively for members of St. James, although we certainly will entertain those in the broader Orthodox community if we know they're Orthodox. And I should clarify that. It is a cemetery solely for Orthodox and their families if they are Christian. And those are canonical guidelines. There's nothing we can do about that. So family members who are not Orthodox can be buried there alongside other family members. The only stipulation is that they be Christian. So if you have questions about the cemetery or about any of the projects, let me know. God willing, I don't have a major project this coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. For the OC Life, that will be a report given. I know that there was a wonderful trip up last week. Yes. And then you're also the book nook after that. So.
Hi, I'm Kimberly, if you don't know me. So Joel's not here. He leads the OC Life chapter for our church. We had a great turnout at San Francisco again for the Walk for Life. This year we'll probably do the Dormition the baby shower that coincides with Dormition, and we donate to a local pregnancy center, and then, okay, so other things, but Joel probably wrote a report that you can look at. Okay, so I wrote one for the Book Nook, and the Book Nook is a little over a year old. So much fun. Really, really enjoying it. Thank you to all those who have helped me run it. It's just a joy to run. And just so everyone is clear about the Book Nook, it is a donation-based ministry. We do not make a profit. All the money that comes into the Book Nook is then recycled to buy things. So it doesn't cost the church any money, but it also doesn't have a profit. So, yeah, okay. Well, any questions for me about the Book Nook, by the way? Okay. Oh, yeah. So the Father Michael's coffee that you drink at Fellowship Hour is donated by the Book Nook. And also the cards that get sent out in the mail for birthdays and name days, those are donated by the Book Nook also. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kimberly. And then Lawrence, who has been the secretary for the last few years, is, at what, 6 years now you've been serving as parish council? Yes, so by mandate of the church constitution, he has to take a year off before his next 6 years, but no, but thank you, Lawrence, for your service. And he is going to be working on a stewardship team, and I asked him to just share a little bit about what that's going to look like going forward.
So as St. James has grown, the challenges that we face in the parish council have gotten a little bit more complicated. There's, how many, is there six of it? Was six full-time parish council members? I can't remember the number, but there's a lot to cover every month. And a lot of the decisions that the parish council makes need a lot more thought, a lot more planning. We have to plan events in advance. And that's in addition to the duties that the parish council already carries out every month, like treasury reports and choir reports and making decisions about the buildings and any types of maintenance. And so for stewardship, what we decided was we would create a separate committee or a small team of folks that will be at the service of the parish council in order to support them in some of the longer term decisions, the planning, anything that drives the budget and the budget planning. So initially what we're planning on doing is meeting monthly. We'll meet the week following every parish council meeting. I am looking for anyone who's interested and has a heart for some of the behind the scenes longer term planning activities. If that's something that you're interested in helping out with, please contact me. We're going to start meeting in February.
And then we have our treasurer's report, which is going to be a combination. Karen, are you also coming up? Karen is our treasurer, and we have asked Ryan to share some things today on the budget. And he also has a form that I just want to highlight at the end that he'll talk more about because he'll put it together. But if you've been keeping track of these ministries, and it also goes with the budget too. So if there's ministries you want to serve in other ways, he'll talk about that in a minute. But please, yes, there's a lot of them. Thank you, Ryan.
So I am not on parish council. I am not the treasurer, but the parish council was looking for someone who could speak about finances without people falling asleep. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be that person. But there's a lot going on and a lot to understand. And normally on our financial reports, it's kind of like people look at it, maybe they gloss over a little bit, maybe they ask a few questions, and then we move on. But this year, it's really important that all parishioners really understand kind of our financial situation, just so that we're all aware of it. The parish council has been, as Subdeacon mentioned and as Lawrence mentioned, the parish council has been tremendous stewards of our resources. It also has continued to get more and more complex as our church grows. We have, as we see all the reports, we see all the ministries, our church has gotten very complex, which is a wonderful thing. Our church has grown every year for the most part, year over year, both financially, but most importantly, our parishioners. We all see new faces that are joining every year, and it really is a blessing and a reflection of the faith that we extend out to the community. Historically, on the financial side, year over year, income has gone up, expenses have gone up. That's been kind of a normal trend, which makes sense, right? The parish grows, and you have more tithing, and you also have more expenses because you have more consumable things, you have more services, more meetings, more whatever, and it costs more. This last year, we had really kind of like a confluence of events, and that's why it's really important that I want to make sure everyone understands, which is expenses kept going up like they did, income went down. And I want to walk through exactly why and how that happened. So first of all, on the biggest thing was the income. If we look at kind of historical expenses, they've grown certainly, and they've grown more, and I can speak to why. But the biggest move on that front is income. And on income, the two big things were we no longer have rental income next door, which is about $25,000 a year. Oh, yeah. I was going to try not to speak too much to this. This is probably the most readable part of the whole thing. And for people like Mr. Dave Ben, who can interpret financial statements, I'm sure there will be others diving in further, and I can walk through all of it. But the biggest move on the income side is rental income down $25,000 roughly. And we had a few very strongly tithing families that decided to move out of state. That also was a drop of about $25,000 in income. So the rest was essentially new additional giving that we received. On the expense side, the biggest things really were, we grow, and so we have more needs. Inflation is a thing for all of us. But I would say probably the biggest factor in expenses growing was the expansion into the building next door. And let's talk about that for a moment, because that really was a strategic move by the parish council, by our church, and frankly a step of faith, because we were deciding to essentially forego $25,000 a year of income, and then in addition add, it's hard to tell the exact dollars of just that building, but call it maybe another $10,000 of expense.
I don't know if anybody knows that the building was actually rented by a church.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. So, and this didn't all happen last year. This actually happened a couple years ago. But when we made the move, a family donated to offset rent for the first year of us being in that space. So for the first year of us being in that space, the $25,000, we rented that entire building to a smaller church. So for the first year of that, of us moving into that space, essentially that $25,000 was subsidized. Last year was really the first year of the full freight of that. So the loss of the 25 plus call it maybe another 10,000 of expenses for utilities and consumables and various things. And before we really drill down into the finances, let's just step back for a moment and think about what happened. Anyone who was here when we were in this tiny little fellowship hall, for those of you who are new, we should do a tour of the old fellowship hall, because you probably have never even been in there, and it's easily half the size of that space. Not only did we get this beautiful area that helped welcome new families in a truly wonderful Christian way, we also got the bookstore, which I think all of us have seen what a wonderful ministry that has been. We also have space for Teen Soyo to meet. We also have space for the homeschool co-op to meet. So if we just take finances off for a moment, this addition has been one of the biggest blessings of our church over the last couple of years, and I think all of us know that. But it did have a financial impact, and I think that's the important thing to understand. Just want to make sure I'm hitting on everything. So I'm just going to quickly rattle off some of the details, and at any time, by the way, feel free to ask me questions as I'm going. But you can look through the report, but I'll just tell you really high level. Again, I mentioned we lost about $50,000 of revenue we had in the past. We were able to increase giving by about $17,000 minus the $50,000, so the net loss was about $23,000 or $32,000 on income. On the expense side, utilities were up about $7,000, and some of this I'm looking not only at last year, but I'm not only looking at prior year, but I'm looking at 2 years prior, because we moved into the fellowship hall 2 years prior. Utilities are up about $7,000. Staff, we had annual increases, but then we also expanded some of the staff. Again, this is a part of growing. That was about $12,000. Maintenance has gone up about $10,000. Various supplies across various categories have gone up about $8,000. Property insurance went up about $2,000. In 2024, bookkeeping services, these are the people that help us produce these reports and help us to see our finances in a better way. This is an outside group that'll go up about $7,000 a year. Our mortgage is going to go up about $4,000 a year. The bad side of that, as we all know, is interest rates have gone up, so our interest is going up. But the beautiful side of that is that it is a fully amortizing loan with U.S. Bank. So in the next 4 years, we will have the U.S. Bank mortgage fully paid off. But that does mean an increase in the mortgage. So all of that is to say that to get to kind of the finale, in 2021, our net income, so that's the money we have left over after expenses, in 2021, our net income was about $10,000. In 2022, our net income was about negative $10,000, so those two kind of net out. In 2023, our net income was negative $70,000. So it's a huge difference, and that's what I want to be sure that everybody understands, is that we've had $50,000 decline in income simultaneous with continued growth in expenses. And so our net income for last year was negative $70,000. Again, I don't want this to be a negative in one context. All of this is because of beautiful things happening in our church, minus obviously the families that left out of state. That was not a beautiful happening, but other than that, all of this has been because of wonderful things. And we took a big step forward as a parish council and as a parish by taking on this additional space, and that had a cost associated with it. So what that also means, just again to be clear, what that also means, on the very first page, we dipped into our kind of reserved or designated accounts to the tune of about $47,000. So of the $70,000 that we were negative, about 30 or 22 of it was extra cash that we had. And then we dipped into our designated accounts to the tune of about $47,000. And we are allowed to, because there are accounts here that are not actually officially designated. They're like reserve accounts, but not something that we want to be doing as a parish. We want to be getting all of those funds back into the reserved or designated accounts, and we want to be growing. So where does that leave us? So this year, we are, number one, just as a financially prudent thing, we are on what I'm going to call an austerity budget. And that means that we are looking at everything that is discretionary and cutting back everything that we can. Unfortunately, just like our personal finances, there's not a lot that's discretionary. So some examples of the cutting that and this is the proposed budget that we're going to talk about. I'm going to call that budget A, and then I'm going to also talk about a budget B. But budget A, which is what we are proposing for adoption, is this austerity budget that cuts back expenses substantially. But still, by the way, all that, after lots of hard cutting, we could cut about $35,000 out of the budget. But those cuts, just to be clear, are no increases in payroll. So that, just to be clear on that front, it means that pay of all of our staff stays flat in an inflationary environment, which means that effectively they're getting a pay cut, but the staff has agreed to keep pay neutral. Fellowship hall, choir, Sunday school, we will not have supplies for those, or I should say the church will not be funding supplies for those. So what that means is we're going to be reliant on donations for those ministries, and that means the paper plates, the cups, it means the crayons in Sunday school. Let's see, what else here? Candles, there's a lot of these. I guess what I want to also say is there's just a lot that goes on in our church that is beautiful that most of us don't know about. And now, unfortunately, because of our current situation, we need to be asking and cutting those back. But one of them is, hey, we get candles. Number one, those candles, the idea is that you're donating every time that you're taking a candle. We used to have a sign there. Oh, there is a sign there, okay. But our candle ministry still costs money. And when the candle ministry doesn't have enough people, enough laborers to make candles, we had been going out and buying candles to supplement that. We're going to cut back the buying of the supplemental candles, so if there aren't candles there on a given day, that's because our candle ministry can only generate so much. You may not have, I don't know if you noticed it today or not, but we are adjusting our thermostats. So in the winter, it's 65, so bring a jacket. In the summer, it's 78, so be prepared to roll your sleeves up maybe a little bit. And then we're also not contributing to our capital reserve account. So our capital reserve account is one of those accounts that we use to set aside money for big expenditures. So that's parking lot, HVAC, roof, that sort of thing. We set aside money over time so that when the $20,000 HVAC replacement comes along, we've got money set aside for that. We've been doing that in a very disciplined manner for the last as long as we've been here, 10 years, I think. But we are stopping contributing to that account for this year. The reason I mention all that is I want everybody to understand that what we're doing is we're essentially tightening our belt and being as financially prudent as we can as a church. In that situation, that's the A budget, which is the one that we're talking about approving. We still are going to need and require increased giving. That even in that budget scenario where we've cut back all the discretionary things that we can think of, including the things I just mentioned, we still need tithe to go up by about $45,000 a year, which is a 22% increase. Historically, we've ranged from 10 to 20% increases on tithing. So it's not an unrealistic expectation that, especially as we grow, that our tithe account goes back up. That doesn't include paying back the $47,000 that's, that's out of the discretionary or the designated accounts. And then there's a budget B, which we are not talking about, which is what would we like to do? What would we like to do as our church? The parish council has been empowered to figure out what is the most important thing to do for, what are the most important ways that we can use the money in the church. And that was the budget that was originally contemplated, and that would require more like an additional $40,000 increase in tithing, so $85,000 increase in tithing, or a 38% increase. So I say all that, and that budget is really where we would like to be, because that is us continuing on the path that we've been without kind of having to take this somewhat, austere step back. All of that sounds like a lot, but if we really boil it down to what we're talking about, there are 65 households in our church, house units, whether that's an individual or that's a family. Currently, 47 of those tithe in some form or fashion, or at least we have records because some tithe anonymously. So the numbers I just talked about, the A budget, which is the austerity budget, which is the budget that we are requesting approval on, that would essentially require that all the all the households in our church increase tithing by $13 a week. That's like 2 lattes. That's 1 lunch these days. Or if it's just the households that currently tithe, that would be $18 per week increase. So when you really break it down, it's not a dramatic. And then to go to the B budget, which is really where we would like to be, which is us continuing to grow the way that we think we should, that's $25 a week for every household in our church, or $34 a week if we're just looking at the households that are currently tithing. Now, some of you are sitting here and thinking, well, I could probably do a lot more than that. Others of you are sitting here thinking, I don't know how I would do that. And the point is that this isn't brought up to say, hey, everybody, we should all start doing that. The point is that we are all given, on the financial side, we are all given in different ways to our household, and so we're all called to give in different ways to the church. Historically, tithing meant 10% of one's income. So people who earn more, they're tithing more. People who are earning less, they're tithing less. Our church has, if anyone's had experience at other churches, if there's a spectrum of pounding the pavement and passing the bucket and saying nothing about tithing, we're probably pretty close to here. We might be right here. We historically don't talk about tithing meaningfully. And fortunately, we've been very blessed to date. And so, our intent is not to change that dramatically, but to have a little bit more conversation around that. We have a little discrete box in the back. That is how tithing occurs here. We don't pass a tray around. We don't do anything like that. And so, our plan is not to change that in any form or fashion. But I do want to underscore that we are at a point right now where we really are looking at, how can we, increase our tithing to be able to accommodate and keep doing what we're doing. Just a couple other things to note is, so that everybody understands, every ministry that we have here, everything that is done here is fully funded by the members of our church. None of it is funded externally. We don't have the archdiocese giving us money every year, every month. I know. We don't have a government subsidy or something like that. Everything is funded by our gift into the church. And to the treasurer's point, we actually have to pay, just as I mentioned, a 10% tithe is traditional to give to a church. We as a church have to give 10% of our gross income, not net, to the archdiocese. And that helps fund the archdiocese. So 10% of our very top line goes away to, and I shouldn't say goes away, it goes to support the really important ministries of the archdiocese. But everything is funded by us. And so we are, one thing that we, as a parish council, because obviously this year occurred, and as it was occurring, it wasn't quite clear how it was going to end up. And one of the things that we look back on is we should also, going forward, have a quarterly update to the parishioners. Hey, this is what our finances are like. Hey, are we on track for budget A? Hey, are we getting toward where we can get to budget B? Great. But that way we can be a little bit more conversational about that. So I don't, number one, this isn't meant to be a downer, because I think, again, if we step back and we look at this, our parish took a very conscious step of faith by expanding the new space. We did not realize at the same time that a few very generous families were moving out of the state, so obviously couldn't have planned for that. But we made that step, and we made that step with the expectation that our church would grow as it has and flourish as it has. And so this really is a wonderful opportunity. It's not a big problem, it's a solvable problem, but it is something that we need to be thinking about. And that is where we really ask you to think long and hard about this. And as I mentioned before, everyone gives in their own way, and that giving is not just financial. That giving is everyone here gives in little ways their time and their expertise to our church. And so what's important about this stewardship form is take it home, think about it, reflect on it, pray on it. The back, as Subdeacon mentioned, these are the ministries that we have, that we know of. There's probably other ones here that people quietly do on their own. So there's lots of ways to give, not only financially, but there's lots of ways to give of your time and your expertise. So do be reflecting on that. I've talked a lot. I really, especially since I presented a lot, I really hope that there are questions. If there are, I can try to do my best to answer them. And then I think after that, we would move to a vote on the budget.
We've been supporting an OCMC missionary.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, that's not on here. So good question. lots of stuff that our church is a very generous church. And lots of that stuff ends up what's called below the line. It's not on here because we have our operating budget, which is just everything we have to do. And then we have lots of things like cemetery, like missionary donation. Am I correct that that is below the line? Yeah, so where what happens is, just as an example, if I donated for the St. Anna's icon, I gave $1,000 for the St. Anna's icon. That goes down in what's called other income, other expense, because otherwise it creates a bunch of noise up here. And so I gave $1,000 and then there was a $1,000 expense, but they essentially net out. And so the OCMC missionary, same thing, it nets out because there was a specific donation for it and a specific expense that came out. So it won't hit these, it does hit the financials. We don't have the other.
It's on the activity report, it's called designated giving.
Okay.
Or designated donations. Because the activity report is actually 3 pages long, and we just omitted the 3rd page of the budget. And yeah, if you look down at items 70, yeah, if you look down at items.
Oh yeah, there it is.
100, those are all expenses.
1, 2, 3, 4, page 6. Page 6 is the part I was talking about where it says other revenue and other expenditures. That's where stuff hits, where it's like I'm donating for the cemetery and it's staying with the cemetery. But so you can see there that just last year on designated donations, we had $174,000 of our parishioners donating for specific things, whether it be cemetery, it be the renovations that my dad was mentioning. Other questions? Sure? All right. Was I really that clear? I don't know about that. Yeah.
The stewardship form that you held up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't talk about the other stuff.
Oh, I don't even know what else is in there. Sorry. Does someone else know? Oh. Yeah. This is the. Oh, sorry. You're right. The most. I think the most important part for this discussion is where you also reflect and think about what you can contribute financially. And the reason that's important is I talked about budget A, budget B. Us knowing in advance what people think they may contribute is extremely helpful for the church to be able to decide how austere do my measures need to be.
Yeah, and one of the things we discussed at Parish Council is this year, we're doing this here in January. Coming years, we really want to get this out closer to October. So we'll effectively have 2 of these in 2024. One in October, so that we can actually have a full quarter essentially to be planning for the next year. And so our plan is we can look at this budget, and if it comes back and we realize, you know what, we're going to be 100,000 less than what we thought, then we can adjust that way. We'll figure out how we can adjust that way. And then if all of a sudden we look in there, it's like, oh, actually there's going to be 15 million extra because someone won the lottery and forgot to tell everyone, then we can adjust that way too and correct it. So that's really what this is here. We're not going to keep tabs on anyone. In fact, it's going to be anonymous when it's sitting in the parish council anyway. We're not going to be looking at this and no one's getting
only
a gold plaque.
only the treasurer knows the identity of the donors. So I guess the last thing that I'm supposed to present on is, so we do have a budget there, and as I mentioned, that budget is what I'll call the austerity budget, which means a lot of things cut back. We believe that that is the only thing financially prudent that we can present to the parish right now. Our hope is that, through additional, pledges, we can have a better picture and maybe move a little more toward the Plan B budget. But at this point, I think, do we just call for a vote, or is that, okay. So is there a motion to accept the budget? Deacon? Okay, Deacon David, second, okay. You should run this, I don't.
Any discussion or questions further on that aspect? All right, then all in favor and All opposed? All right, thank you all.
Do we have, do we know who the second was and the first, so we can put
Did you get to? Oh, Nicholas Wright and Deacon David, okay. Who first, who was the first? Deacon, okay. Thank you. Just next time, get the hand up a little faster and you can beat him. So the next part that we have to cover, and thank you, by the way, I really appreciate you sharing that. It was very in-depth. For the Parish Council, we have new appointees. As we said before, we're thankful for Lawrence's ministry to our parish on the Parish Council for the last several years. And then, Father Thomas, if you wanted to introduce your invitee,
Yes.
your appointee, rather, to the Parish Council.
Yep.
And the Parish Council decided to retain me for their appointment, so for better or for worse.
So I accept bribes for people who want, I get one appointment myself that's unrelated to anything, I just get to appoint. And whoever donates the money, the most money for that is what I take. So Ryan Collins very nicely did that, and all kidding aside. So we asked him, and he's got an awful lot going on, but he agreed to be with us at the Parish Council, which we appreciate because it is a commitment. It's not only a commitment of time, but it's a commitment of energy. We've struggled with a lot of issues, important issues, good issues, but we appreciate it very much. So Ryan is going to be the replacement for Lawrence.
And then for the Parish Council that they retained me, we actually have to do a vote, which feels weird to call for a vote for myself on that regard.
Is there a motion to accept something as a motion second?
Who was the first? Darlene was, if you write that down.
Carla and Darlene.
Okay, Korea, Carla, and Darlene.
All in favor? Opposed?
All right, thank you. One of a verse from Proverbs I've thought about a lot as we are closing this meeting and we see all of the things that happen in the parish. In Proverbs it says, where there are many oxen, the trough is dirty, but with many oxen there is great strength. So we have more and more strength and beautiful things coming from our parish, but at the same time there is a great deal more getting in the water that we have to clean out, and all of us are working together to just keep that ministry of our parish going forward. So Father, would you please close us in prayer?
Please stand. It is truly meet to bless thee, O Theotokos, ever blessed and the most pure, and the Mother of our God, more honorable than the cherubim, more glorious beyond compare than the seraphim, thou without corruption bearest God the word, and are truly Theotokos, we magnify thee. Lord, we thank you for this wonderful joy of this church, for everything that it means, for the hope and the joy that it gives to us. We thank you for everyone, the labor that has gone into it, the struggles, the good things. We thank you for those who have gone before us. May we be faithful to you to the very end. We love you, we seek your face, and we offer back to you this wonderful blessing that you have given to us. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. I think we're all ready to go now.
And we'll see you all at the fellowship hall.